Let's do this. So, analyze first two platoons.
That totally needs to be the intro now. Greg mumbling, "Let's do this." Oh God!
Oh God!
It's the end of the world.
Well,
It's that time of week again. We're recording another Dust Bootcamp. Welcome back, Dusters, and it is, once again, another episode of Dust Bootcamp. And yay! Yeah, excitement. So, Greg and Alicia, as always, are joining me, Nick, on this episode. And now that we've finished up with the overviews of all the different factions, or all the factions that, Greg will let us talk about, I did try to get the Imperial Japanese Navy in there, but he said no, not yet.
I told you about the railgun.
The railgun? Wait, I don't remember this one.
The Imperial Japan Navy is going to have a special weapon called the railgun.
I don't remember this.
So the walkers, for example, who have a railgun will only have a railgun on them because the other arm will be used as a power source for the railgun. And it's because we're talking about a massive weapon.
Interesting. It sounds vaguely, slightly familiar, but not entirely. So, I don't mind being reminded of these things. So there. If you guys haven't heard it yet, once again, as was pointed out in Dust War Journals, Greg likes to drop spoilers when he's on podcasts.
Hell yeah.
So with the closure of the overviews, we are moving into the I don't know, I feel like it, was supposed to be the real heart of the show, but I feel like the overviews are so in depth. I don't know if this really is going to be. But we're going to start talking about the platoons. And I guess one of the first things that in all of this I wanted to mention or make clear, I know that we've touched on it, hinted at it. I don't recall if we have outright full on said it, but it is the faction advantage because it has a role when you're building your platoon, and the faction advantage being if you have 75% of your forces coming from the same faction and no other faction other than Bloc, you get an extra 10% of whatever point level you're playing at. And that may not seem like a lot, but at 100 points, that's a hero. That's almost any hero you want.
These points should always be spent on heroes, either heroes pertaining to the faction or belonging to the block.
Right. Now it does, kind of ruin it in the fact that, if you take another faction, or, it gets ruined if you take another faction, because then you lose the faction bonus.
Exactly.
It's either the generics or whatever you want, and you lose the bonus. So, but there are some of those nasty combinations that you can put together and forego that bonus. But I like to try and stick with it as much as possible. I feel the bonus is worth it.
Oh, yeah.
How about you, Greg?
I say, oh yeah, because yes, it's always worth playing with a little bit more points. But most of the time in my list, I forgo the bonus because I always like to mix it up because it gives me some abilities that I wouldn't have if I wouldn't. So yeah, it's really a choice that you make when you build your army. Both are valid. It's easy to stay in a faction, and it's tempting, and I think it should be done probably 90% of the time because factions are built in the game to be really working in symbiosis. They are meant to work inside the faction really well. From time to time, the remaining 10% of the time, you will enjoy removing this bonus, depriving yourself of these extra 10 points of heroes, just to be able to play the heroes that you want, because you want this hero that belongs to that faction. Lately, for example, with a very good friend, Mark, we are playing Allies list, and we like to mix all the Allies pilots inside heavy vehicles. So you have Tom, you have Greg and Easy, and you have Crazy Jimmy. So you have some USMC, you have some Desert Scorpion, and we put them in Rangers vehicles, in block vehicles. So that obviously you deprive yourself of the extra 10 points because you have like 3 different factions in the list. But at the same time, each one of your vehicles is just insanely good. So that's pretty fun to do also.
All right. Awesome. So yes, I like the bonus. I've been sticking to it, though. There was a list I was building the other day with some allies, especially when my son decided he was going to play with his plane, and I didn't have a plane. I was like, oh, you wanna break that out? Well, that, and he decided 50 points. So that was really odd, because it was making for a really, really small game, and I was like, I don't know what to take right now. And then what I ended up taking ended up being a Marine list, and the wildfire was the bane of existence for his plane.
Yeah.
I took a wildfire and the Bushmaster.
Oh, nice.
And I brought the Bushmaster, and it was shooting at one of his Walker and his Rackentroopens that we had picked him up that day. And he's like, oh, well, ha ha ha, and flew his plane in right behind my Bushmaster, and was trying to gun it down, and somehow he managed to whiff all his rolls.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. So then I brought out my my wildfire, because I knew that he was going to come after my Bushmaster. Bring out my wildfire. It guns down and like knocks off a hit point or 2 off of his plane.
Yeah.
I have another unit of guys who just shoot at it and take off a hit point. And then I used my command squad and reactivated my wildfire.
Yeah.
And it shot it and gunned down his plane.
That's sad. I am a huge fan of planes, but yeah, they are still fragile, even though they are less fragile than they used to be, thanks to the evade save. But yeah, they are really powerful, but you really have to take care of them, or your opponent will take care of them really quick. So
yeah, he didn't want to play me again, so maybe I was a little too mean.
Yeah.
But speaking of allies, that is where we're going to start with all of the discussion for the platoons. And starting that off, we're actually just going to start from the beginning of the book, and where they start in the book, and just move methodically through there. So the first one is the Allied medium combat Walker platoon.
Yep.
Lots of words.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. That's also a very, very good platoon. It's a platoon that I really enjoy. It's actually the first platoon that I've ever played in the game. And it's a platoon that I always come back to when I don't know what to play. So platoon that is based on the M3 chassis. So everything that is Mickey, Pounder, Barking Dog, Hot Dog, Cobra, Rattler, these kind of things. Interesting enough, also the Recon Mickeys. It has its importance for later.
And the light variants of all of those too.
Yes, of course. So you can play the Ranger version, or the Bloc version, or you can play the USMC version of it. So, and that makes quite a difference because of the point difference and the armor difference. So you will not play. It's really funny because you will play the same platoon, but you will definitely not play the same way if you play USMC or if you play Rangers. It's a good platoon that you can play either completely, you base your whole list on this platoon, or it's a good platoon that you can play to complement your regular USMC or Ranger platoon. I've seen some very good lists, for example, where some people just come with the 3 vehicles that they have to take in the platoon, use the platoon for these vehicles, and then use, for example, Diver and his platoon for all the troops. So you have all the troops that are brave or immune to suppression because they are already brave. And then you have this platoon of walkers that can reactivate themselves, or when I say themselves, that can reactivate each other during the game. And that really creates some really nice activation shenanigans. And of course, really increase the potential of destruction of some vehicles. So the platoon says that all these medium combat walkers in or supporting the platoon can use Get Moving You Bunch of Monkeys as a special action. And of course, because they all have radios, they can use it on any other vehicle, any other M3 vehicle, anywhere on the play area. So all the medium walkers can do reactivation of all the other M3 medium walkers.
Which is crazy.
It is.
And, actually funny that I talked about the command squad, a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the first time, I'm pretty sure the first time I've used a command squad in a game and actually did the command squad stuff.
Command squads are really a very important part of the game now. They used to be good. Now they are, in my opinion, they are essential. Officers or command squads are really something that you want to try and integrate in your army list with the game as it is, because this reactivation potential, and of course all the other command squad actions, but this reactivation can really change the face of one round and sometimes the face of the game. So yeah, it is really good.
Yeah, it can make a massive difference in the middle of the game. It's pretty crazy.
Yes. For example, one of the best examples that I have with this platoon is the hot dog. So the hot dog is you can take it as the combat unit 1 or combat unit 2, or obviously as a support if you didn't take it already. Hot dog is a medium combat walker that has a napalm thrower. So it's a range 2 flamethrower. It's already good by itself. With a speed of 3, that means that anyone in range 5 will be hit. Now, imagine that the march move of this vehicle is 5. So you just activate the vehicle, move 5, you enter the table, for example, and then you're going to choose to reactivate this vehicle. And if you're a little lucky on your dice, obviously, because they are still a dice roll, but you can really move again. So you now moved 8, and you're shooting 2 further, so you can shoot up to 10, and we're talking in 1 round with a flamethrower. And that is really, really insane. It's really something that I love to do with the hot dog. This is already a worker that is good, but that makes it really efficient all the time.
Yeah. They've just been amazing. Yes. Command squads, that is.
Oh yeah. It really the ability is really nice. Funny, I'm waiting because we are since we're talking about spoilers. We have shown a picture of M3 medium walker for the USMC in Florida called the Gator. And it's actually the chassis of the Mickey, obviously, but it's based on a hot dog, so with a heavy napalm. or a napalm thrower, not a heavy, but a napalm thrower. But it also has the open turret, because that's really the pattern of these light walkers. And it also has some additional weapons on it, one of them being a recoilless gun. So playing this, if it plays as it shows in the picture, it's going to be a very good walker to use also in this platoon as a support unit.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's really interesting. I mentioned the difference between the allies, between the Rangers and the USMC, because the price difference between the USMC walkers and the Rangers walkers will allow you to take an additional walker in the end. If you base your army entirely on it, it's going to be the difference between 7 and 8 or 8 and 9 walkers, depending on what you took. That creates another possibility of get moving. That creates another possibility, another vector of attack. So you will sacrifice armor points, and that is important because armor 4, you are not susceptible to auto death unless really a very heavy tank hunter vehicle is in front of you. Armor 3, you will be subjected to auto death a little bit more often, so you will have to be more careful on your placement. But it's really something that you can think about because it creates more possibilities.
I agree, and so it was interesting. The other day, there was a discussion. Somebody was asking for getting ready for Adepticon if there was any kind of meta lists out there, or any guides for building your units. And there was some interesting discussions. Greg, you tried to say no, there isn't, and I had to disagree with that. There's definitely ways of going over the top with your lists.
Oh no, of course. No. The question was about, is there a meta? And there's no meta yet in the game because our tournament scene is growing. And we don't have yet lists that appear to be completely obvious to play. When you look at tournaments, even in Europe, where they have a very active and very power gaming in a good way way of playing, there's no list that really dominates the scene right now, either in any faction. You have some choices that appear a little easier, but you don't have a given list, or so many choices that your list basically makes itself. You still have to think thoroughly about what you want to do. For example, people are rediscovering the War Dogs right now, the War Dogs Recon Squad for the USMC. It's a fantastic unit, but people were not seeing it at first. And now they're discovering that it's actually really powerful. So we still have these moments where people are still discovering the game. So,
definitely,
yeah.
But one person was brought up that don't take any of the medium walkers for the allies.
Yes,
and that surprised me. I kind of, he mentioned like the Pounder, even the Pounder Light. Which I can understand in some regards, because the Pounder of Light is an extremely the Pounder or the Pounder Light. You have one shot, and then you have 2 machine guns.
That's the flaw of the anti-tank guns as built right now in the rules. They have one shot, and if you shoot and you hit, you will cause a ton of damages, but you don't have this statistic smoothing ability that other vehicles have by shooting more dice. So it's something that you have to take into consideration when you take these vehicles. Typically, my Pounder, because that's what I take as a common unit in this platoon. When I take a Pounder, I take the Pounder because I will use the officer ability on it, or I will choose to put a hero in it that will make the Pounder better. So if I play the USMC list, it's always funny to put a Crazy Jimmy or Tom in a pounder because that makes it way more reliable and also way more resilient in the case of Crazy Jimmy. So,
You know, I actually keep thinking of Crazy Jimmy and a Barking Dog, and
that's the obvious combo. It really synchronizes really perfectly with each other because you cancel the need to reload by having an extra action. So it's not stupid at all. It's really an obvious choice, but it's also a one-trick pony, and it also has this gigantic target on the forehead. And in the end, it's still vehicle armor 3 or 4, and it's going to get destroyed. So it's good. It's even excellent, but it's not something that I would base my strategy on if I want to survive, especially with this platoon.
Right. Well, and then I was thinking Greg and Izzy in a pounder.
So this is one of the examples where you want to sacrifice your 10 extra points of faction bonus to go a little to think outside of the box. And yes, Greg and Izzy is also a very good choice because expert on all weapons. When you have 2 machine guns and an anti-tank gun, really helps with the reliability of the weapon without depriving you of the mobility of the vehicle. And suddenly you can move and shoot and still have a high chance of hitting, and that's really convenient. So yeah, I approve.
I thought you would.
Yeah.
So you know it's yeah. I swear I'm starting to work on the French Foreign Legion, the Desert Scorpion guys, just so that I can have Greg and Izzy.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that I have a reason to have Greg and Izzy in my list somewhere.
The biggest weakness of this platoon is going to be that and that's why some people like Felix on our group were saying that you shouldn't play the M3, is that they are fragile and you're going to need to cover them a lot, protect them a lot, and you're going to need some smoke launchers. So either you take a cheap artillery and you shoot from the back, and you cover your advance this way, or you're going to have to take maybe a support from a heavier walker. Funny enough, they show it in the picture. They use a bulldog in the book as a support, and that's exactly what I would do. And that's exactly what I do actually in my list. I play a bulldog because on the first round, you're going to move the bulldog as your first activation, move forward, pop your smoke, and suddenly you have 4 squares that are covered, and you will be able either to move behind it to stay in cover or to move inside it, to get really secure and to have a better chance of survival. I also like, even though it's less efficient, but I like to have some mechanics to to repair my vehicles.
Right.
So a cheap mechanic unit like Justin & Co., for example, or even some mechanics. You have a very good mechanic ranger, Gilmore, that is from the special character unit that we released 2 years ago, and that will be re-released soon. So these are choices that allow you to make your vehicles a little bit more resilient against, the little attacks, the little phaser that is a little annoying and kills you 3 points by 3 points, or this Tesla weapon that just caused you 2 damages and stunned you. It's really convenient to go and at least fix your damages. So it's really something that I like to have, or at least one, so that I can really try and repair these points that I would be missing when I need them. So.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's also Rosie.
Yes, Rosie. Rosie is she's tricky. She's tricky. I'm still trying to figure out if I should use her as a mechanic or as a bazooka. So she can do both, but you have to choose every time, and this choice makes her expensive, and this choice really, right now, really disturbs my way of playing. So I really need to figure out how to play her, especially with the resculpt that she's having right now. It's obvious that I'm going to play her. So,
So
yeah.
that makes
The
sense.
resculpt is amazing.
The resculpt, yeah,
my gosh.
is really magnificent.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Resculpt, awesome.
also, for this platoon, a plane is always a good choice. The same thing, you're going to need either you can really focus your vehicles to be an anti-tank threat, and then you're going to need a plane to take care of the infantry spam, or vice versa, although planes are less efficient against vehicles. But really, having a plane around will also allow you to put the pressure on your opponent's side of the table while you move forward with your list. So it's worth considering.
Definitely. As my son definitely illustrated when I played him, even though I did end up taking his plane down pretty quick, it still took a lot of shooting in there. And if we'd been playing at 100 points, I would have been hurting because it was a lot of firepower that went into taking that down.
Exactly. And in the meantime, you don't take care of something else that has the time to come on you. And yeah, that's really, really... Planes are really a good threat all the time. And even when they die, you still manage to divert the attention of your opponent long enough to make it significant. So
exactly. So
enjoyable.
They can be an invaluable tool on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Additionally, and they showed it up in the picture, and I was thinking it in the back of my head. But if you did take a bunch of the light walkers, I like to call them the chicken walkers.
Yeah.
You bring just any combination of those, and they also can be just that good bit of annoying that that it takes attention away. Oh yeah, that pounder shot once and missed me. I won't worry about that versus this wildfire which walked on and gunned down this unit of infantry on me. So
yeah, playing it mixed is always a good solution. A little pro tip, and when I say pro tip, it's just to make fun of the term because it's neither a pro nor a tip. But playing the Mickey ARV, for example, in this platoon makes a lot of sense because it's a Mickey that can repair. So you can repair your other Mickeys. And because it's an M3 chassis, it can also get moving a bunch of monkey to another Mickey.
True. I actually like that.
For 9 points, you have a vehicle that is also an officer. It's a common squad by itself for 9 points. So it's one of the cheapest common squads that you can find in the game right now, with quite a resilience because it's a level 4 armor with a 6 HPs. So it's nothing. I mean, it's nothing that you can gun down really easily. You will have to divert some powers if you want to get rid of it. So.
I like it. I dig it. All right. Anything else about this?
No, I think it's pretty much all about this platoon. Really keep in mind that it's good to play by itself, but it's really good to just play as a complement to another platoon, especially on a USMC list that will encourage you to play a lot of spam of troops. Having these 3 walkers as a support, whatever you choose, may it be a combination of Mickey, Hot Dog, and Cobra, for example, or Barking Dog, 2 Barking Dogs and a Pounder. I mean, really, there's no bad choice.
No, I don't see bad choices in that list.
Yeah.
Especially when they're able to, reactivate each other.
Exactly.
All right, so that leads us on into our next platoon, and that is the Allied Ranger platoon. Now, this one's pretty nice because all Rangers, but not heavy Rangers, because we can't give heavy Rangers anything nice. They have jetpacks.
I think
Units
that was for you, Paolo.
units in or supporting a ranger platoon gain the scout skill.
Yep.
And then the second part in here doesn't actually count any longer.
No, it's an artifact from a time where the rules were tested with a roll to make your reserve enter the table, which was deemed heavy and unreliable and stupid. So it has been removed, but sadly, the platoon hasn't been corrected. The work on the book has been fantastic, and some mistakes still happened. So this is one of those. It really doesn't matter because honestly, the first part of the platoon is just what makes it completely awesome. So you have all your rangers become scout. That means, so scout is an ability that says that your first, when you enter the table at the beginning of the game, your first move can actually be a march move, leaving you an extra action to do something else.
And yeah, that is extremely valuable. Being able to get on the table and make a march move. So you're going what 5?
Yes, actually, give me a minute. I'm
trying to remember if Rangers are 4 or
Rangers
5.
are 4, I think, but if I
think I have a Ranger card right here.
Yeah, there are 2 4. It's the Marines that can go to 5.
Okay, so yeah, so still, range 4 getting on the board, that's a pretty good distance.
Oh, that's really fantastic. And considering the weapons that you have also with the Rangers, that are weapons that have a good range most of the time, that means that you really have a coverage of the whole battlefield that is really easy to gain. So again, 3 choices of units, 1 hero or 1 command squad as a command unit. There's no real bad choices with this platoon. I think that a healthy mix of recon and heavy weapon squad can really put a wrench in your opponent's plan really fast. And then either because you took Bazooka Joe, I would take Bazooka Joe because when you can take him, you should always take Bazooka Joe because Officer and Black Ops gives you really an edge during the first phases of every round. So that's really, it's a good platoon. It makes the Armor 2 shine. And I think it makes sense. It's a platoon that makes sense. So again, moving 4 allows you to place your units where you need them, and then you can support them. Most of the time, you will. Again, my advice would be to always consider planes, but you can have also heavy or medium walkers. We were talking about the medium walkers, for example, platoon. It's typically a combination that you're going to do. The Allied Ranger platoon with your 4 units, and then you're going to go directly with the medium walker platoon, and you will have really a good versatility in all your army to do whatever you want. That will allow you to have 1 officer at least, because you're not limited to that, but you are guaranteed to have at least 1 officer with a Ranger Command Squad or Bazooka Joe, and then you will have the vehicles handling themselves by moving a bunch of monkeys between each other. So yeah, it's a very solid platoon, very simple, really straightforward. There's really no hidden trick in it, but it's really interesting. So
yeah, true. I can't think of too much to add to this. I would definitely more than likely combine it with the medium walker, or even as we get further down, there's a few others that I would look to combine this unit with, because you need the extra threats, because you are moving up and moving in fast, but that does also mean that you can be putting yourself right into the jaws of those PLA guys,
Yes.
with their short range.
I would definitely consider a heavy mortar squad. First, because as a ranger, it's going to take advantage of the platoon because it's supporting the platoon. So you're going to move 3 with your mortar on the first round instead of 1, which is convenient. And your guns, you're still gonna shoot at range 4 to 12. So that's pretty cool, and you can put some smoke to cover your troops. I have a huge weak spot for the heavy commando platoon that we will see later, but having some airborne troops will also help put the pressure where you need it. Also using some spies as a complement, like Chef or what's
Priest.
Priest, thank you. Will also allow you to have a nice diversion to cover your rangers. Again, my good friend Mark used to say that you can take Sergeant Victory and use Sergeant Victory as a distraction so that your troops can move quietly while your opponent is absolutely fighting the odds of cheat death, even if you don't do anything with Sergeant Victory. So it's pretty funny. So yeah, a good solid platoon. I would say kind of nice when you refer to the background of Dust because, again, charismatic heroes, nice units, but really no specific trick to it. It's really plain and simple. Be scout and enjoy it.
I agree. And since we kind of rolled through that one really fast, and because they're near and dear to my heart, I think we'll do one more tonight. I know we said 2, but I just got to get the Allied Heavy Ranger platoon in.
Yeah. So the Heavy Rangers. We were talking about how fragile they are. This is a platoon that starts or attempts, depending on how negative you are, to find a solution. So all heavy rangers units in or supporting the platoon will pass the infantry save on faction logo and shield during the first turn of the game.
Yeah, there you go. There's the rub.
Yeah. So again, the same second part about the reserve where they roll an extra die, so it doesn't matter. But the first part, they have this extra save, like a zombie save, but during the first turn of the game. As I told you a long time ago, and as I repeated again and again, if you survive the first round with the Heavy Rangers, you are winning the game. Heavy Rangers are fragile. It's obvious, but if you're not on your opponent on the first round, you will be on the second, and you will destroy your opponent. So,
I have an army of Steel Guard that say differently.
But you also have an anecdote about Guaylo being shot down in one round by a unit of Heavy Rangers.
Yeah, but he's not an army of Steel Guard. And actually, he wasn't shot down by Heavy Rangers. He was shot down by a bunch of Marines. No, that was hilarious and just the most random because it was 4 hits and only 4 hits, and managed to get past his save and then his damage resilience. I mean, that was just dice were against the person I was playing.
So this platoon. So you need a Heavy Ranger Command Squad. Let's remember that the Heavy Ranger Command Squad is the only one that doesn't fly.
I know, it sucks.
So yes, it sucks, but at the same time, because they are in Armor 3, they can radio anywhere on the table. So
but it's not so much the radioing. I mean, the radioing's great. Don't ever discount being able to radio anywhere. The thing for me, though, is that you have a medic who can't keep up with the people he's supposed to medic.
Okay, so yes, but the medic is not here for that. The medic is here to heal your officer every time you lose him.
Yeah, except for, if I'm playing you, you're shooting the medic first, so.
Because I'm evil.
Smart man. Smart man.
I'm trying to find the right vehicle. Yeah. The command squad. So I'm gonna finish. You have to take the command squad and then 2 combat units that are gonna be either the attack squad or the tank hunter squad. So obviously one of the choices will be the attack squad, because you cannot play heavy rangers without an attack squad. They're just too good to be true, so that would be a shame. Again, the tank hunter are really efficient at range. The 2 bazookas really help a lot. Actually, it's 3 bazookas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's 3 auto bazookas.
3 bazookas, so it's pretty cool. What I would do is that the heavy ranger command squad, I would definitely put them either in a mobile HQ or in one of the new rangers command truck.
Yeah,
because they have a command truck rangers that is in one of the boxes for the Desert Scorpion trucks. And you have 2 common vehicles that are really different in their usage, but really, really, really make the Heavy Ranger Command Squad shine and become really insanely good. So yeah, definitely, Mobile HQ is also a good option if you want to have some anti-aircraft options. Air alert is convenient, but really, and of course the smoke launchers. So either you have your first round where you have your extra save, or you put yourself in the smoke in the smoke, and you will have cover save. So either you have a weapon that ignores covers and you will still have your super save, or you put yourself in cover and something that ignores infantry save will not bother you on the first round. So it provides a lot of options. The Desert Scorpion truck, which is not Desert Scorpion when you take it as a ranger, but the Dodge truck will give you this extra mobility because it's quite fast, and also it's really cheap and still a common vehicle, so it will allow you to reroll your command actions. So that's really, really nice. It's definitely that I would consider, because making the Heavy Ranger Command Squad able to reroll for Get Moving a bunch of monkeys using both their actions to do it, that means that you will really reliably reactivate one of your units, and may it be the attack squad to wipe out 2 units per round, 2 infantry units per round, or may it be the tank hunter. In both cases, it's still going to be really, really good. The tank hunter, for example, do 2 damage each. They can roll 2 dice doing 2 damage each on a vehicle. So you can do already 4 damage per guy times 3 guys. So you can take down any super heavy vehicle if you're lucky on your dice. But if you can reactivate after that, you can really make them a major thorn in your opponent's side. I mean, losing 2 heavy tanks per round is really annoying.
Oh, definitely. I would have to agree with that thoroughly. Usually losing vehicles is really annoying.
So it's a good platoon. It's definitely a platoon that I will enjoy as soon as I acquire a Heavy Ranger Command Squad. Because right now I don't have it. It's irritating. But as soon as I have it, yeah, it's a platoon that I'm going to play, because I like the play style of the Heavy Rangers. I like that they are really in your face. And with this command squad that stays in the back, but then the rest of your army moving forward, it's definitely something that you can really play really aggressively, and that can pay really quick. So it's, again, Rangers are straightforward, but they are really interesting to play. So it's another platoon with the one that we've just seen for the normal Rangers that is really plain and simple and at the same time enjoyable. So
So to pick on the dichotomy between fluff and reality, I would point out that their XM18 aerial assault armor for heavy rangers allow them to achieve incredible feats. Yet then the command squad doesn't have jetpacks because
because reasons. In all honesty, I have no stupid reason why they don't have a jetpack. I don't. Again, it's a common squad. It's quite an expensive one also, but it's a common squad anyway, so you know that you're not gonna move it around and go attack anything. So I think that removing the flying ability was also a good way for our point matrix to make them cheaper than they would have been.
Possibly. Yeah. I just was laughing because I looked at the rule book and just noticed that little piece of fluff where it said the XM18 aerial, and right after we had talked about the command squad not being
their rocket packs give them speed and mobility, and then about that.
And so another person that is fun to kind of insert into these units would be Oz.
Oz 117.
He's a little bit odd for a heavy ranger because he's got a flamethrower.
Yes.
So it's the decision on what unit to kind of put him with. If you're putting him with a unit, which it kind of makes sense to.
Yes, you should, because it will grant either the unit or him some extra resistance to damage. Honestly, I would put him either with most probably with the tank hunters, because you need at a point you will be in too short of a range to be protected against attacks, and with Oz, it will allow you to really get in contact with your opponent, put your flamethrower in their throat, and then punch them to death. So it's really something that I think is valuable. The flamethrower being really efficient also against vehicles. So yeah, probably with the tank hunters. That's what I would do.
Yeah. And I tend to lean there towards that as well. I have stuck him in with the assault heavy rangers, and kind of had a little bit of fun there because hitting somebody with a flamethrower right before you punch them in the face is
it's actually pretty clever, because that will grant you some extra HPs that you want to remove before rolling your attacks and make them more reliable. So I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, he just kind of throws a little bit of extra chaos on the field. I mean, same thing with Rhino, but Rhino's a little bit more straightforward on come in and who he's going to group with.
No, of course. Oz, I didn't mention it in this Allied Heavy Ranger platoon because Oz is also indeed a very good choice in the Rhino's platoon. So
yeah,
when you want to start this waterfalling of attacks, it's really convenient to have a guy that is really efficient in melee. And Oz at range 1 will be able to start, burning some stuff and then punching them to death. So it's convenient.
Highly.
Yeah.
But
for the support of the Allied Heavy Ranger platoon, honestly, the Heavy Ranger attack squad is really good against infantry. The Tank Hunter squad is excellent against vehicle. So your support will be, as I said, either on the common squad because you want it to get better at doing what it does, or on protecting your units beyond the first round, or against weapons that will deprive them of infantry save. So it's going to be, again, smoke, mortars, these kind of things that should never be neglected. You can also, obviously, again, always think about an aircraft, whatever happens. Not really a spoiler because we already showed it, but we have a new aircraft for the Allies that is going to be released. That is the same chassis as the Storm and the Thunder, but it's gonna have it's actually called the Tornado, and it has two heavy phases on the under the wings. So it's, in my opinion, a good choice to support this kind of platoon. I have a huge weak spot for phasers in general. So
phasers are fun.
Yeah,
they're a little bit tricky to use because they're kind of limited, but they're fun.
It's another weapon where you have to sometimes rely on a little bit of luck on the dice when you hit vehicles. When you hit infantry, it's pretty efficient by itself, so there's not really a problem. But yeah, aircraft would be an obvious support because you want something that moves as fast or faster than your units to make sure that, again, you have this first strike, this alpha strike, that allows you to divert the attention of your opponent until your units are in place. So
right,
definitely that. Long range anti-tanks can be convenient also. So
yeah, and mortars, even though you've got the cover save and all that the first turn, you don't have it the successive turns. So mortars dropping smoke, because honestly, and you did kind of say it, or you did say it earlier. Once turn 2 hits. Yeah, I mean, well, you said that you're gonna win if your heavy rangers live, you're gonna win the game.
Yes.
But the one problem that I've run into running the heavy rangers is that turn 2 hits and I've survived turn 1, turn 2 hits, I get up there and I kill it. It's dead, but then I'm just standing there.
Of course.
And somebody's looking at me, and I'm like, well, shit. Because heavy rangers are expensive, and being expensive, you can't take as many of them as your opponent generally.
Yeah, and it's also something that you have to take into consideration because there's only 3 of them in a unit, and they only have 1 HP each. So they are fragile. That's a reality. So indeed, having a mortar, for example, to smoke the place where you're going to land with your rangers can be, really, really good. So it's charging the side of a vehicle so that you destroy it and the vehicle becomes an obstruction that blocks line of sight on one side. And then you and before that you have put your mortar smoke in a way that on the other side of the rangers, they are also covered from line of sight, thanks to the square of four squares, of smoke. And that makes your opponent that puts your opponent in a position where they have to move forward to get to your rangers. So, and again, that's a nice distraction because you still have more rangers coming. It's also something that needs to be, and I will explain it even better with the Rhino when we talk about his platoon next week. But it's really something that it needs to be understood with the rangers. You have the possibility to go all in and ram everything in the throat of your opponent at once. But actually, with the rangers, you should not hesitate to have a spearhead that will go by itself, wreck a lot of things, die, and then send another spearhead. And that is something that is kind of disturbing because you find yourself in a position of doing some grinding with units that appeal for sheer violence. But that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to go one unit, damage more points than what they cost, probably die, even though you cover them as much as you can. Your opponent will have to take care of them. But then you have another unit coming to replace it and do exactly the same thing. So really, it's an army where you have to have your nerves with you because you will lose a lot of miniatures all the time. But each one of them has a lethality that is way beyond what a normal USMC or even not regular ranger would have. So even one heavy ranger can really cause some serious damage on anyone. So
Definitely.
again, super fragile, but again, this platoon will allow them to subside a little bit in the first round. Don't count on it. It's not the secret to survivability. You know, you will not have 100% rate of savings. On the paper, you have 66%. Don't believe it.
No, actually, I'm pretty sure the one of the games that I was running these guys, there was, I think I had 6 or 7 units, and out of those 6 or 7, the 2 or 3 that were out of cover, one of them got targeted. It was the only one that didn't get into behind something that they couldn't draw a line of sight.
Yeah.
And yeah, it got shot. Just one round of shooting, they were dead. I was like,
yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, when I play Steel Guard, for example, my damage resilience is pointless, and it's really frustrating. So dice are a fickle mistress. So
they definitely are.
But yeah, for the platoon, really, it's a platoon that is easy to play, easy to set up, not super expensive in points. So behind it, you have a lot of possibilities if you want to do whatever you want to do. Again, a platoon that fits well with the medium combat walker platoon. It fits well also with the platoon that we will mention later. That is the heavy destroyer platoon.
Definitely. Oh yes, the heavy destroyer. Ooh, yeah.
So it can be fun. So we will see that.
Right. So yeah. This is a fun platoon. Wow. I suddenly drew a brain fart on what I was about to say. All right. So
kids don't do drugs.
yeah, drugs. Drugs are bad for you, kids. No, it's just kind of nice to see, starting to put together all of the things that we talked about in the overview, the different heroes and the different units, putting them together into, something cohesive, that's a little bit, more tangible, and, able to go on the table.
Yes.
Because we talked about how nice they are, what their bonuses are, but this is where we get to see those bonuses start to shine. So I'm kind of excited for this part of the series.
Yeah, platoons are really a nice aspect of the game. I like the way the writers have created these platoons as not as you cannot play that in order to get the bonus, but you must play that, and then you can play whatever you want with it. It's not a limitation to your ability to build your army. It's actually a reward for choosing some units. So sometimes these choices are obvious. We will see that with other platoons where anyway you were about to play that, whatever happened. So you just get a freebie, and it's really nice. Sometimes it's a platoon that will invite you to play something that you wouldn't have thought of, and it's really interesting all the time. I really enjoy platoons. I have a tendency to choose my platoons before in order to build my army, because it's really something that also influences your way of playing during the game. So I will pay more attention to a platoon than I will pay attention to my faction bonus, for example.
Yes, I would agree that the platoon that I'm building is going to end up being more important than any faction bonus.
Yeah. And really my challenge now as an advanced player is to mix platoons and to make sure and to try to have 2 or 3 platoons on the table that have different missions. Next week we will talk about the British Commando platoon, for example, and I have some crazy ideas about that I've started to experiments that are really fun to play. Not necessarily super efficient, but really fun to play.
and that is the fun part with some of these platoons is mixing them together to see what you can come up with, and then drop on somebody.
Yes. Yeah, it's exactly that. Say, how stupid can you go? You can go full stupid. So it's pretty cool.
But all right, Alicia, Greg, thank you for being on the show.
It's a pleasure, as always.
Always a pleasure.
It definitely is. Actually, we spend as much time BSing about what we're going to talk about on the show, and then usually not talk about any of it.
Because we already talked about it.
Exactly. Or, like immediately after we end the recording,
Yes.
we go, hey, this would have been a nice thing to talk about. As we do recording the show. So yeah, no, it's been fun. I will remind folks once again, if there's anything, and with Platoons in general, if there's any thoughts or comments you want to make, you can send them in, nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Send them in to us, or you can even send them in to Greg or Alicia.
In private messages on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. And let us know, hey, I think this or I think that, and at some point we'll discuss over those things, because those things are interesting as well, and actually, that's we were talking about what Felix said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and like when he's made his comment, I immediately saw it and replied, and I'm like, so why do you feel this way? Yeah, except for I think how I first wrote it sounded more like I was like, oh really, you think, and I was like, but I'm just asking out of curiosity. I'm just
Felix has he has a very interesting input, and he thinks in a very scientific way. He's calculating statistics, the chances of something happening, and he builds his army around that. So that makes him obviously really efficient. And that's really, it's an input that is valuable. It's also worth mentioning that he also plays mainly gradeless. And it's because of the distances being completely different. The influence that you're going to have with some vehicles is absolutely not the same as what you're going to have with others. So that makes some choices completely irrelevant. It's the same game, but it's a different gameplay, and that really changes a lot of things when you build your army. So it's always interesting to have his input, because he's cold-headed. There's no passion in what he says. He's not saying it because he wants to troll you or because he wants to be right. He's telling you because he made the calculation. So sometimes it's going to be a little brutal, but it's always worth mentioning. And then you can do whatever you want with it. Most of the time, for example, I agree with him, but I will still play what I want to play, because in the end, I don't care about winning. I care about having fun. And some lists, as I told you in previous podcasts, there are some lists that I don't have fun with because this is not my gameplay style. So it's really something that you need to consider also when you choose your platoons.
Definitely, you need to play what you enjoy, not necessarily what's going to. Well, I mean, most gamers get out there and winning might not be everything. Winning's definitely not everything for me. It makes it a whole lot more fun when I'm winning. But
it's pleasurable. That doesn't mean it's always the same wisdom. The goal is to win. The purpose is to have fun. So
definitely. But yeah. So if you have any other comments, thoughts, ideas that you want to share, just send them in and we'll talk about them. So we're going to be sticking with allies. So if anyone wants to read ahead and send us anything that you want mentioned, just let us know.
Spoiler alert: we're going to continue in the same order as we started.
See, now that we've picked on Greg about spoilers so much, he's going to use that in front of everything, and he's not going to remember what was real spoilers and what wasn't.
Exactly.
So,
and then in the end, everything will be wrong. I'm going to be grandpa.
All right, Dusters. Stay dusty.